we're going to be talking about managing change in the contact center, which I think is an area that a lot of people have struggled with over the years. So I'm delighted to bring in a panel of experts to the webinar who are going to take you through sort of 3 different approaches on how to manage change in the contact center. So I'm delighted to welcome to you John Aves from CP2 Experience. John, would you like to introduce yourself and highlight some of the things you're going to be talking through?
Indeed. So good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be with you. My name's John Aves. I'm the Chief Executive of CP2 Experience. We're a customer experience consulting and training company, and we help organizations improve their customer experience in ways that drive higher levels of satisfaction and higher levels of loyalty from their customers. And the other area of expertise we have is in behavioral change. So how do you align people within the organization behind the new way that you are, the new experience that you've developed? And how do you get people to not only get aligned around that, but also have the capability to execute that in a new and different way for customers? So that's the kind of work that we do. In terms of me, my whole career has been spent in the kind of customer experience space. I started my career as a young manager in British Airways years ago, and was involved over a 10, 15-year period in the transformation that British Airways went through from a very operationally led to a customer-led business. And then over the last 20 years, I've had the pleasure of working with organizations around the world who are facing issues of customer-led change and how they execute that. So I'll be drawing on some of that experience as I talk through a 3-step process that hopefully will be helpful to you with the change that you're managing.
Wonderful. Richard, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Richard. I'm a change maker, author, and strategist. I've learned so much from sales, digital, and the social teams, and worked with some of the world's best companies. I'm best known for establishing the unique individual understanding and learning process in some of the best companies. I'm a judge in the Forum's annual Motivation Awards, and I co-author the Keeping the Human Factor Alive in the Digital Age. So I'm looking forward to sharing some ideas today.
Wonderful. And you're going to be going through 9 questions to ask. Frank, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Jonty. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending if you're listening live or where you're listening from, or if you're listening to the recording. It could be any time of day, but great that you're able to join us. And thanks for Richard and John for joining us today. I'm from CallMiner. CallMiner are a technology company. We do conversation analytics. We allow our customers to extract at scale actionable insight from all of the dialogue and interactions they're having with their consumers. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about some of the macro factors that are affecting change and the types of change that's impacting within contact centers, and how technology can help you better understand what needs to be changed and how to go about that change.
Wonderful. Well, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you want to watch a replay of today's webinar, here's the link: callcenterhelper.com/recorded webinars. So that's the link there. You probably want to share this with your management team, so that's the place to go. If you'd also like to log into the chat room, we've been carrying on the discussion there, asking what's changed within your organization. I'm going to jump to some of those answers in a minute. So here's the link for the chat room: callcenterhelper.com/chat. And here's the, or you can type in a short code, cch.chat. So just put cch.chat into your browser. You can do it on your mobile phone. You can do it on your computer. It is in a separate window. Screens are generally big enough these days to have the webinar on one side and the chat room on the other side of the screen. Once you're logged in, you can download the webinar slides. Here's the link to download the webinar slides. And you can join in the discussion. We've already been talking about what people have been doing to manage change. So Marlene has said they've been doing COVID workflow changes, new regulations this year. Mansour says they've been revamping a knowledge-based system. Phil has said they've been stepping into the hybrid world, finding a balance between the business need for team members to be in the office and the wants of employees working from home. Melissa's introduced new staffing model. You get the idea, lots of discussion going on there. So the place you want to be is in the chat room, cch.chat. If you want to win a prize, we've got a prize for the best tip that comes out of today on how to manage change. And it's either a bottle of champagne, gift card, charitable donation. Pick from the list if you win. So what I'd like to start off the discussion. And I'd like to ask a question of everyone, and that is, how customer focused is your board, or if you don't have a board, how customer focused is your senior management? Would you say they're very customer focused? Would you say they're somewhat customer focused? Are they more focused on revenue or cost reduction? Do they talk a good story about customers, but really don't follow through when it hits the line, or are they playing lip service? So which one is it? Is your senior management, how focused is your senior management on customers? Let's have a look. I think we've got most of the people here. We've got a sample size of 117. Let's just share the results. Well, this is rather nice to see, John. 52% of the audience is very customer focused, 28 somewhat customer focused, 10% on revenue cost reduction, and luckily only 9% who talk a good story. Are we preaching to a room of the converted, do you think, or do you think this reflects normal business? They're good results. They're higher than I would have expected to see. So we've obviously got a pretty sharp group on the call today. Okay, well, talking of a sharp group, I'm sure they're going to love your presentation, John. If you'd like to pop your slides up, and you've got a three-phased process for managing change in the contact center. Yes, we have. See if we can get the slides up. There we go. Off you go. Good. Well, good afternoon, everybody. A pleasure to be with you, as I said. My name's John Aves. I'm the Chief Executive of CP2 Experience, and we're here to talk about managing change in the contact center. And I'm sure you agree that the life that you've led over the last couple of years in particular, change has been a constant theme. And whether you've been managing large scale changes or more modest changes, I think the world for all of us has been full of the kind of changes that you see listed on the screen here. And contact centers have become ever more important as a channel to connect with and communicate with customers, but ever more challenging to manage. So what I'd like to do is share with you an approach that we at CP2 have used to both plan for and manage customer-led change, whether it's large change or small change. And I'm going to describe a kind of three-phased process and a range of tactics that you can use in each of the phases. And my hope is that we will cover a whole range of practical ideas and tips that you can take back as you're managing change in your business and the parts of the business that you're responsible for. So before we look at the phases themselves, what I'd like to do is make a couple of comments about change more broadly. And the first is that it's often said that people are resistant to change, and that's actually not true. If you look at the way in which the brain works and the way we're wired, people are actually curious. We're born curious. And what people are wary about, however, are changes they don't understand, changes they don't believe in, or changes that they believe are going to adversely affect themselves. So the challenge for us as managers and leaders as we're managing change, whether it's large change or small change, the challenge that we really face is to get people to trust
what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. And that speaks to our ability as managers and leaders to communicate, to be transparent, and to engage people in order to generate their trust and cause them to become as enthusiastic as we might be about the changes that we're making. The other point I've noted here is that you see the 3 phases on the right-hand side of this slide. Sequence matters. You can't start to make change and expect people to be with you if they don't understand the nature of the change that you're making, or if they believe there's still a profound commitment within the business to the old way of doing things. So these 3 phases that we'll go into in a little bit more detail in a second, unfreeze, making the change, and refreezing, they are in that sequence, and that sequence matters. But in truth, the phases all overlap and they're continuous and circular. But separating them into those 3 categories helps us think about what we need to be doing at each phase of a change process. So with that said, let's look at the first of the 3 phases, which is really about unfreezing. And by unfreezing, we mean challenging what's gone before, creating permission for people to do new things, the new things that you're describing to them that you need them to do going forward that are different to what's gone before. And that requires them to be understood and for us to demonstrate support for the new behaviors. And the place to start when thinking about this whole notion of unfreezing, creating permission to do new and different things, is to start with your management team. You've got to make sure that critical mass, the key managers within your team, within your broader team, are on board, because either intentionally or unintentionally, people who are not following the direction, are not supporting the effort that you are attempting to drive, will undermine it. So, you know, you need to work hard at getting the management team on board, and you may have to move people out of harm's way if they are undermining the whole process. I think the other things that in the spirit of aligning the management team are really important to do are to align the management group around a consistent change story. So having people clear about what's happening, why it's happening, what the rationale for it is, what the future direction is, and so on, is really important for managers to be aligned around and be articulate about and consistent about. I think the second thing that's key to alignment is what we've identified here as role model behaviors. What is it managers and leaders are going to do differently going forward in order to support the new way? Let's get clear about what they are as a management group. And lastly, there will be some obstacles that need removing, need overcoming in order to enable the organization to move from where it is today to where it is tomorrow. So what are those obstacles? Let's get clear about what they are. And they're the kinds of questions that the management group needs to address before it starts the process of making the change. The other piece here, which is very, very important, and this starts within this first phase, but actually continues on, is the whole question of communication. This is not about making an announcement or sending out the email to describe a new process or a new way of working. This is about ongoing communication, consistently, often across the organization, across the team, about the vision, what's changing and why, the timeframes, and crucially, the implications for people's day-to-day work and roles. So that's communication is clearly key. A mistake that we're all probably a little bit prone to is assuming that the enthusiasm we have for a change that we're driving through our part of the business is enough to commit the team. And the truth is, it's probably not, because you're likely to be several steps in your thinking ahead of where the team is and where the rest of your organization is. So you have to give people time to kind of catch up with you. And if you don't do that, what sometimes we allow is our enthusiasm for the change that we've committed to, that maybe the rest of the organization hasn't. We allow the pressure of that enthusiasm to manifest itself in terms of pressure to perform, pressure to hit financial targets, operational targets. And the problem is with that is that if the rest of the organization hasn't caught up with our thinking, then all they do is turn that pressure into an operating environment that really isn't motivational, and the danger is that performance worsens because they've not caught up with what it is you want them to do and why. So kind of beware of that. Now, we identified leadership behaviors as key, and I'm not going to go through this whole list here. You can see that for yourself, but what I would say is one of the most significant things you can do as a leader is to demonstrate a change behavior in support of the new direction and the new way and the new process, whatever it is that you're encouraging people to join you on. And you can see that list of behaviors there, and probably some of them will surprise you because they're not the traditional kind of process performance metrics that and behaviors that we've all grown up with. And why is this important? It's important because you've got to signal through your behavior that you're serious about the change in your behavior and in others. To give you a quick story, we were working with a large retail organization, hundreds of stores around the world, 76,000 employees. And one of the very simple things we did early on in our intervention with them was to get them, work with the management team to come up with a new changed agenda for manager team meetings. So when a branch manager or a departmental manager in one of their stores did the morning huddle with his team, the traditional huddle in the past has been all around stock, around sales, around performance, around the usual financial and operational metrics. And we changed the script, we changed the agenda that they use to drive the discussion. And the new script, the new agenda was all about what they were hearing from customers, talking about what customer issues were being raised, talking about what things were getting in the way of them delivering a new and different experience to customers, much more listening and much less advocating. And when senior managers came to visit the stores, they also had a script that reflected the new strategy. The biggest thing that went around the organization was that our managers are talking to us in a new and different way. And that sends a huge signal to the organization. So these are all the kind of things that you need to be doing in order to demonstrate through your behavior and through the focus that you bring that you're really serious about the change. So having started to unfreeze the organization, let's look at the second phase, which is about making the change happen. And no surprise, but the issue of communication continues on through this phase as well. And as I said earlier, communication is not about an announcement. It's not about me sending out the video. It's not about me announcing at the team meeting or the town hall meeting. We're talking about communication that really engages people in a two-way dialogue. And as we've said already, the change story needs to be consistent, and managers need to be continuing to live the behavior that they've committed to, because key to making successful change is that people trust you. And those kind of behaviors will inculcate the change that you're looking for. One of the things that we talked about a second ago was the importance of engaging team members. And in contrast to the enthusiastic focus and doubling down on performance I described earlier, which sometimes, if people haven't caught up with you, have the ability to demotivate people. In contrast, what we need to be doing as managers is really engaging team members and focus on what we call the 3 Ps, which have, in contrast to the earlier behavior, have the impact of improving people's motivation, commitment, and trust. And the 3 Ps are about purpose. The first is how my work and my role connects to the bigger aims of the organization, the part of the business that we're in. Second P is about potential. If you're making change, there's got to be some benefits for me. They may be personal, they may be developmental, maybe in terms of satisfaction and reward within my role, it might be in terms of career advancement, but get clear about the fact that there are benefits for the individual. And play is about the opportunity people have to contribute and be creative, involve team members in changes that affect them. So the mantra going forward in terms of engaging people and involving them is the 3 Ps. Make sure you're clear about how their work connects to the bigger picture. Make sure there's something in it for them and involve them and engage them, including in teams that are working on customer improvements. When you do all of those things, the likelihood is you're going to get a high level of engagement and a high level of motivation from people around the changes that you're making. So let's move to the last phase, which is refreezing. So we've unfrozen the organization. We've given them permission to move from where they were to where we want to be. We've started to make the change through communication, engagement, involvement with people. And now what we're doing is addressing the question of how we embed these changes into the way we do things around me. It's business as usual. And if you talk to people who've managed major change programs, one of the things that they say is the change program started off as a project and sustaining it becomes really difficult. So that becomes the challenge. So here are a bunch of tactics that you may find useful in order to move this from a project to the way in which we run the business. The managers walking the talk, again, is a key thing. You start, once you move on into this and you're clear about the change and it's going to work and you've tracked it and measured it and committed to it, linking incentive and reward systems to drive the desired behaviors, internal HR processes and systems and training built around the new way as opposed to the old way, making sure the customer research that you do asks questions about what it is you're aiming to deliver for customers going forward as opposed to what you did last year. Continuous improvement, scorecard, continuing to communicate progress and results. So these are, and I'm sure we could go on and add to this list, but these are the kind of things that when you start to embed them into the kind of fabric of the organization, they let people know that this new strategy, this new plan, this new way of working, this new system, this new process is here to stay because we're tracking and measuring it and building it into the fabric of the organization. So in summary, making change can be difficult, and most change efforts don't achieve the results that the organization and the leaders had hoped for. But I hope that the 3-phase systematic approach and some of the tactics that we've listed provides a simple roadmap for having you think about how you manage change in your part of the business, and has given you some practical ideas that you can build into your world and your change work. Thank you.
You're on mute, Jonty.
Thank you very much for that indeed. If you could pop into the chat room in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best about John's presentation? There's some great feedback there. I thought we're curious, we're wired for change. People are wary of change if they don't understand or don't believe in it. Certainly communication plays a very big part if they don't understand it. Unfreezing, creating permission for people to do new things. So start with your management team. And I think very key, don't assume your enthusiasm for change will be enough to commit the team. They need time to catch up. And I love the tip about change the agenda at your huddles. Instead of talking about targets, just start talking about what are you hearing from your customers. I think some excellent things in there. We're going to jump across to the chat room. If you're not already logged into the chat room, the address is cch.chat or callcenterhelper.com/chat. Danny says, well-being calls with our home workers have proved really useful in bringing people back, keeping people from being isolated. Sarah says, people are generally wary of change when it's done to them and not with them. John, that sort of, I guess, ties in with your thing about change that people don't understand or don't believe in.
Yeah, and the crucial thing as well there, as you move beyond the, getting clarity about the story, engaging them in the change that's going to happen. We used to years ago talk about the iceberg of ignorance, which is the closer you are to the front line, or the further away you are from the front line, the more ignorant you are about what's happening day to day. So engage the people who are on the front line, because they come up with ideas that probably you may not have thought of as well.
Excellent. And Richard, there's a couple of tips in here. Phil says, empower your staff to deliver the change you want to see. They will only impress and surprise you. And Carla said, tip for a better change result, include your front staff employees in the agile way of giving feedback for projects and work evolution. We have this for senior employees and it goes very well. Richard, what's your thought on those two?
I think we're in this great change from controlling people and designing organizations to control the contribution of people, to actually realizing that actually people's contribution is best released by having coaches and leaders managing in the way that John suggested, but also realizing that the ideas are in people's heads right across the organization. And I've got some great ideas, but I've realized a long time ago that my ideas aren't as good as some of the ones in my teams, and they're very committed to them. So I go along with that idea.
Wonderful. And Frank, Justine says, we've worked really hard to include the frontline team in the changes that are to be made. They're the ones working with the customers, have first-hand experience and with what they're hearing. So to move the change forward, it needs to be all brought together.
I think that the frontline staff are the face of the company. They're the gateway to the company. They're the people who can most impact change, and absolutely would agree with involve the frontline team in the changes. They are the people that represent your brand, your company, your processes and your products.
Wonderful. Well, it's a good time now to jump across to Richard Brimble. And Richard, I think you're going to be taking us through 9 questions you need to be asking yourself if you want to manage change.
Yep.
So if you'd like to share your slides on the screen. There we are.
Okay. Hi, everyone. For me, managing contact center change starts by challenging the organization to become obsessed about the customer and unleashing the potential energy and ideas of our people. Look, since 1991, I've had fun implementing and sustaining cultures where understanding, action and learning has been at the center of business improvement. Hey, when I was 12, Johnny Nash said there were more questions than answers. And the more he found out, the less he knew. 50 years later, I'm still listening, learning, and asking, hopefully, insightful questions. Today, I have 9 questions that will assist you when planning your change initiative. So strap yourself in. I'm going to share a lifetime of learning in 10 minutes. So first the 9, are we designed around customers and people? A new organization design is needed to meet the challenges of the future digital age. It has 5 key components. Firstly, leaders must be ambitious, focusing on achievement and agreeing the direction and the style of team behaviors that will differentiate the business. Secondly, capability managers must imagine the future experience, remove the obstacles and focus on fixing stuff for customers while agreeing what we need for digital innovation. Thirdly, all teams across the business must focus on delivering an easy and emotionally engaging customer experience. They know full well that these days the customer experience is literally in the hands of the customers. Fourthly, teams must use explicit data to understand and predict customer behavior. Data can be very powerful, and when insight is presented well, it can be very compelling. But don't forget the untapped knowledge inside the heads of people. There's a huge motivational impact of listening to people, involving them and valuing their views. Daily, individual and team feedback to drive ongoing improvement is essential. Finally, implement a culture that is purposely designed to release innovation and the potential of the power of teams working together to drive improvement. There really is no limit to human achievement. The very best sales and service people I know are always groundbreaking. In this slide, you can see a stretching goal somewhere between 2 and 10%. A groundbreaking achievement might be as much as 50%. Let me give an example. I led a team where complaints were rising and a stretching target to reduce complaints of 10%. We discussed what we would need to do to reduce those complaints by 40%. We knew we needed to think differently if we were going to be groundbreaking. So we allocated individual complaints to the process owners across the business. We showed them the complaint. As you can imagine, for some, it was a bit of a shock. Each owner made improvements and predicted the number of complaints we'd receive post their improvement. We had a model that looked forward and predicted complaint reduction of our end of year numbers. Everybody across the business was thinking, how can we improve? At the end of the year, we didn't achieve the groundbreaking goal, but we did reduce complaints by 37%, and the company was near the top of industry league tables. So be groundbreaking and surprise yourself. Are we a team? In really emotionally connected, great teams, ideas come from open conversation because the teams believe and trust one another. Your choice to share your ideas is often determined by the norms and beliefs of your culture. If you're logged onto your business, you contribute. If you're not, you literally log off and just do enough. You certainly hold back in your ideas. So ask your team what behaviors you see in great teams. One thing's for certain, great teams don't include Robins. Are you surrounded by blue tits or Robins? In the UK, we used to deliver milk in bottles to the doorsteps with aluminium foil on. Alan Wilson, the biologist, studied the speed of learning and when birds extracted cream from beyond the foil. He identified that blue tits learned much faster than robins. But why? Robins were territorial and solitary and had no mechanism to learn as a group. Blue tits love teamwork. They welcomed outsiders. They love flocking. It seems that when you flock, you learn much faster. So highlight the robins, help them improve, but show them how their behavior hinders our success. But most importantly, get flocking. Top leaders energize their teams to recognize achievement. Here's some data. What do you see? When shown this data, over 80% very quickly say that 5 plus 5 does not equal 9. Very few spot that 5 of the answers are right. The best leaders I know recognize when people get it right. They build confident people by recognizing their strengths, coaching them to be great at what they're already good at. Listen to individuals. Some continually look at them over there. They waste valuable time blaming others for the situation they're in. If you blame others, you don't need to take responsibility. Taking responsibility means taking action and improving. Responsible people ask, What can I do? They focus on what they can do to solve a problem. And they do appreciate the value of teams. The best take responsibility and act. Are we building understanding? When you understand the purpose, as John said, teams can move very quickly with confidence. Leadership must listen to teams and frame communication on these three narratives. Firstly, connect with people based on their situation. Talk in their language. Build trust. Be consistent in your messaging. Focusing on the long term, please give hope. And three, show you really care about the situation. It's okay to show your emotion. Get the two-way communication right, make it a habit, and people will have belief in you and the future. Are we emotionally connecting with our customers? In life, when we make decisions, emotion plays a huge part. There are some brands that people love. My life's work has been focused on the importance of emotion in business and looking at simple ways to measure it. The customers love our products, our engagement channels. They love the experience or the value. In one company, we asked our teams these questions. What would we need to change to allow customers to say they love us? There wasn't a shortage of ideas. The company-wide improvement team acted. In 2 years, the company reduced costs by millions and moved from the bottom of the league table to the top. Are we learning? Leadership must encourage critical thought and openness to drive improvement. In 1991, I learned that the quickest, fastest way to learn and improve is to ask ourselves these two questions. As babies, we learned to crawl. We walked, then we ran. We learned through our experiences. We still do. Are we achieving? Always worth asking. I've studied successful teams and people. Watchers get distracted very, very easily. The key to ongoing achievement is a personal commitment to doing your very best every day. The very best surround themselves with achievers, the ones that aim high. They respond positively to setbacks. They don't dwell on the past. They're learning. They're fun to be around. They take responsibility. They look to the future. They're team players. They inspire those around them. At the end of every single day, the very best just say, have I done my best? And keep getting better. So 9 questions you can ask your team whenever you like. Hope you found them useful. One director said that understanding and learning was the last unique selling point of their company. So if you want to know a bit more, then please get in touch with me. Just to finish, a few years back, a role model leader was leaving the company, and a colleague of theirs wrote some words for them. Can cynics become advocates? They sure can. Trust, direction, friendship, inspiration, confidence, passionate, listen, understood. Hey, in closing, when I was 13, Johnny Nash sung, I can see clearly now. I can see all the obstacles in my way, he said. Gone are the dark clouds that have me blind. I can see clearly now, and when you do, you win. Thanks.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much indeed for that, Richard. Some great points there. If in the chat room you could just jot down in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best about Richard's presentation? I loved the whole point about, are we groundbreaking or are we just stretching a goal? I love the question. How can we reduce complaints by 10%, then actually achieving 37%? Are you a Robin or a Tips? I think this will go down as one of the great moments of the webinar. When we flock, we learn faster, I think, which is great. And top leaders recognize their teams to recognize. Top leaders energize their teams to recognize achievement, recognize when people are doing things right. And I love the question, what do we need to change for customers to say they love us? So if you just pop that into the chat room. It's now time to take part in our quiz. That is in the chat room. So if you're not logged in already, here's the link. Just type in callcenterhelper.com/chat or just cch.chat. Once you're logged in, you'll see that there's some voting buttons at the bottom of your screen, either on your phone or on the screen. A, B, C, or D. It's some multi-choice questions. And so, for instance, if I say the answer, A is 20%, just click the A button. That's not on your keyboard. That's the ones on the screen. You need to use your mouse or your phone for that. So let's just go across to the chat room. We've got 66 people logged in so far. cch.chat or callcenterhelper.com/chat is about half the audience so far. Okay, so let's start the first question. What is the top reason why customer service representatives give out bad information? Is it A, bad data, B, bad incentives, C, overconfidence, or D, stress? What do you think is the top reason why customer service representatives give out bad information? Is it A, bad data, B, bad incentives, C, overconfidence, or D, stress? We've got most of the answers in there. A lot of people said it's bad data. Actually, the correct answer was bad incentives. According to CX expert Jeff Toyster, while all of these reasons for giving out, while they are all reasons for giving out bad information, Jeff has highlighted bad incentives, such as things such as sales commission or AHT targets, as the #1 reason for giving out bad information. Next question. What percentage of contact centers believe that digital channels or self-service will be the biggest trend to impact within the next 5 years? Is it A, 16.5%, B, 26.5%, C, 36.5%, or D, 46.5%? I think we've got a few more answers in there. And people aren't doing terribly well here. The actual answer is B, 26.5%. Most of the audience actually believed that artificial intelligence was actually the biggest trend, with only 26% saying digital channels and self-service would have the biggest impact on the contact center, possibly because that may be something that they're doing already. It's fascinating. Okay, what does the abbreviation NOAC mean in a contact center environment? Does it mean number of absent colleagues, A? Does it mean B, no action required? Does it mean C, no answer when called? Or does it mean D, number of abandoned calls? So what does the abbreviation NOAC mean? And if you don't know, just take a guess. Let's have a look at the answers. And people not doing very well today. It's not the number of abandoned calls. It is NOAC is an agent short code for no action required. It's a short code that people use in after call work to speed up note taking. There's a whole list of the abbreviations on the Call Center Helper website. Okay, last question, talking about change. And that is, who said the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new? Was it A, Alexander the Great, B, Aristotle, C, Cleopatra, or D, Socrates? Who said the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new? I think it's an excellent phrase, that one. And most people actually got this one right. It is indeed Socrates. Socrates also said, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle." So the winner is Amanda 53. So we'll get in touch with you, Amanda, and get a prize out to you. And we're just going to do a quick poll. What are the biggest issues your agents raise when dealing with performance, when you're reviewing their performance? Is it the feedback they get is not objective? Is it internal processes or tools? Do they feel isolated from their teams? Is it complex and stressful customer queries, lack of management support, or insufficient coaching? So perhaps if you'd like to pick the top 2 from that list. So is it not objective feedback, internal processes, feeling isolated, complex or stressful queries, lack of management support, or insufficient coaching? So I think it's going to be interesting. Frank, this was a question you wanted to raise. Let's have a look at the results. Perhaps not surprisingly, internal processes or tools is high up the list, the top answer, followed by complex and stressful queries, but also quite a significant number, insufficient coaching and feedback, not objective. So that's, so quite a range there, Frank.
Yeah, I think that the insufficient coaching and not objective performance feedback, I'm going to touch on probably those 2 subjects in particular in my session. Yeah.
Well, probably a good point to jump in.
Indeed. Let me know if you're seeing my screen.
Just need it full screen.
Okay. Thank you. So John Richard spoke really eloquently about some of the techniques and tools to help effectively manage change. I'm going to talk a little bit about change as it applies directly to the contact center. I'm going to talk about some of the external factors driving change, how they translate to challenges and opportunities within the contact center. And then finally, I'm going to touch on how technology can help with managing that change. So, 3 trends driving change. So we touched upon it in the session before we went into the full webinar. 65% of people, I'm talking in the UK specifically here, but 65% of employees either worked fully remote or hybrid during 2021. And what we're seeing is that I don't see that changing anytime soon. That balance between remote, fully remote in the office and hybrid working is going to be a challenge that persists. I think people want to work from home. They want to have that work-life balance. They also want to be connected with their colleagues. The second point that I think is driving some of the change in the contact center is labour and skills shortages. In the UK, as of the end of December last year, there were 8.75 million people that were of employment age, but were neither employed nor claiming unemployment benefit. So a large proportion of the employable workforce in the UK isn't available for work. But what we've also seen is, and I think this perhaps is driven by people making sort of life choices during the pandemic period, is that people in that mid-career phase, 30 to 45 years of age, they're leaving their current employment in record numbers. And what's not happening is that people who are new to the employment market are filling those positions. So whilst traditionally we may have seen, labour and skills shortages in sectors like healthcare, perhaps, or hospitality, where traditionally they've had long hours and low pay or tough working conditions, we're seeing those skills shortages now permeate a lot more into other sectors. And then finally, the Oxford education termed a phrase, I think, the Great Resignation. that they surveyed 60,000 employees last year across many, many different sectors. 69% of those employees were confident that should an opportunity present itself, that they could leave and go to work for a new organization. 24% of them were actually planning to leave the organization that they currently work for in the next 3 to 6 months. And this creates great challenges in terms of, you know, keeping and retaining employees. Wages matter, of course they do. Benefits matter, of course they do. The chance for career advancement and equality in the workplace are also important. But what it boils down to really is the employer's responsibility to ensure that they can address the questions that the employee will ask, which is basically, is this company handling my health and my happiness? And the cost of attrition for organizations that don't address that question, in the same survey, I think it was 28 weeks to productivity for a new employee, and roughly £28,000 of cost for every new employee to get them to productivity. So these are big macroeconomic and social challenges. How do these relate to our audience today, you know, within the contact center? Well, clearly you've got to manage the agents who are working from home and simultaneously managing agents back in the office. You absolutely have to be able to look after the agent's well-being and mental health. And that's just not just during a time of change. That should be a consistent factor throughout their employment with the organization. You are going to find that you've got, perhaps even greater than you had before, a mix of different employee tenure and skills levels with new employees perhaps being higher or attrition rates being higher. How do you get performance and productivity consistency with that mix of employer tenure and skill levels? How do you manage, you know, in all of this environment, how do you manage quality? How do you understand what root cause are, whether it be on people or processes or products, so you can make informed decisions to train and coach the agents, to advise the business about product issues, or to change processes that are broken. One of the things that agents are really good at processing data. That they process data all day, every day. On every call that they're processing data, they have a great appetite to learn. So enabling self-coaching and inclusivity. You know, coaching shouldn't just be something that the supervisor or team leaders do. Providing agents with the tools to able to self-correct, self-perform, and self-develop is an equal part of what you need to be having within your performance management mix. And then, yeah, there's many studies been done about this. The more engaged an employee is, the better customer experience and business outcomes that they'll deliver, and the higher the morale will be within the contact center. And contact centers with high morale and high engagement have much lower attrition rates than those that don't, which helps to address some of the socioeconomic challenges that we talked about on the previous slide. So what do agents want? What do agents need? And there's a number of different factors here, but most employees want timely, and timely is important here, timely feedback and coaching, so we can drive consistent performance, have a clear development path. That they want that performance management not to be something that is, you know, dip tested or performed once a month. That they like performance management to be consistent. They want to be assessed and developed based on their body of work, not just a small sample of the work or a small samples of their calls. They want the coaching and guidance that they get to be highly personalized to them. As I said previously, they want the opportunity to self-develop as well, to identify where their own performance areas are, and to be guided with actionable insights to help them. That they want to know what good looks like, and how do we enable them to understand what good looks like, understand what they're good at. I think Richard or John, apologies, don't know which one of you said it, but that 3-to-1 of praise versus development, understanding what they're good at and praising agents, and agents want a greater connection with customers, with their colleagues, and with their supervisors. They want an understanding of peer performance, and they want regular and consistent feedback. So all of this is great, but in order to impact any change, you need data. You need to know what to change. And data in many of the organizations that we deal with, data is plentiful. The problems are the breadth and depth of that data. A lot of it is unstructured, whether it be on your point of sale systems, your CRM systems, your contact center stats, your WFM, many sources of data, but it's unstructured data. It's really difficult to extract valuable insight from that noise, particularly at scale. AI, Jonty in one of the previous surveys, AI is one of the biggest emerging technologies and priorities within contact centers. But building out AI workflows, it isn't easy. It requires a significant amount of data. It requires a significant amount of investment, and it requires a significant amount of time and expertise in order to be able to properly have AI workflows. And then finally, we live in a multi-channel, omni-channel world, and the data that's available can often be siloed. Your email system data, your web chat data, your call steering or chatbot data, your audio data. It all sits in different parts of the organization. So it's really hard to get a consistent view of the customer journey and of the agent performance across multiple channels. So how does technology help with this? So I work in the conversation analytics space, and conversation analytics is really about taking all of these conversations that you're having with your customers is data. It's just unstructured data. Conversation analytics, very simply, is about turning that unstructured data into structured data and then providing it to the people who can affect change in a way that's insightful and impactful. Here we can see, it could be an audio call, could be a tech, could be a web chat call, but you're tagging behaviors that the organization has determined are important within that. But you're not doing it on one call, you're doing it on all of the calls. So you can get aggregated and consistent patterns. You can understand across all of my calls in a day or in a morning or in a week or in a month, where are my strengths and weaknesses? Where are my development needs? What am I really, really good at? Where is our organization more generically failing on people or processes or products?
We're just running a little short on time,
Okay.
Frank, so if you'd like to go to your concluding remarks.
I will go to my concluding remark. There's many factors driving change. The front line are the most important people, I think, within a contact center that can affect successful change programs. As leaders, it's really important to consistently and timely engage and develop our agents. Pay particular attention to the new employees but don't forget the experienced agents. Change is an iterative process. You know, whether you're using technology or not, you know, it's never once and done. You've got to consistently always be revisiting change. So it's about finding the insight, delivering the insight, and measuring the performance, and then rinse, lather, and repeat. So that's basically any questions for me. I'm sorry I was a bit short there, but any questions for me? No, please reach out.
Wonderful. Unfortunately, we've reached the top of the hour. So
You're sharing the wrong screen, Jonty.
Oh. So unfortunately, we've reached the top of the hour. So if you'd like to pop into the chat room, what did you like best about today's webinar? The winning tip that we had comes in from Phil. Phil said, when it comes to effective change communication, always start with finding the 2 why answers. The first isn't why change, it's why are your people here in the first place? What is the shared ethic or commitment your teams have? What is your vision and value which brings people together? Once you can answer this, link to the second why, which is why change? What does this change do to achieve the first? Excellent there. Before you leave, if you'd like to fill in the survey, we're going to be back next week when we're looking at making customer journey mapping easier. The replay will be available probably in about an hour's time. I'd just like to thank to our 3 speakers. John, thank you for joining us today. Oh, John was on mute there, but, I think just like to say, oh, there you are, John. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Jonty. A pleasure.
Richard, thank you for joining us today. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, very enjoyable. Thanks a lot, Jonty.
And Frank, thanks for joining us today as well.
Thank you, Jonty. No problem. And thanks, Richard and John, for being my co-panelists.
Wonderful. Really enjoyed it today. So just a reminder, we're back in a week's time looking at customer journey mapping. Thank you, everybody, and have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.